Don't come to me asking for IELTS advice if your general English is awful, you know.
But my idea of masterclass is that if you want to be successful in anything, doesn't matter.
It's also very interesting. I call them Agent 007, Agents 007. They wrote 0 essays, they read 0 articles, they want to get 7 in writing, you know.
Nechta ibrat masterclass kelgansiz?
Today is the first one.
First one.
Yes,
I hope that's not going to be the last one.
I hope.
7tacha bo'ldi. 7-8ta bo'ldi.
Sorry, esimdan chiqib qolibdi. Advice of all time. Like, let's just skip this one. Yes. IELTS is not your uncle. Yes, I forgot this part. Okay, we can just skip to the next one. I know all of us are procrastinators. I mean, I did this presentation 5 minutes before I came here. All right.
Hurmatli shunaqa bo'lganda, ikkita savol bersam maylimi deganda. No, only one question is allowed deganda. Okay, then I have one question which has 2 parts.
If you don't have any emotion in your words, they may not get.
Yangi telefon xarid qilib oldim. Yangi telefon oldim. In Tashkent accent.
Tipa maqtanish yoki tipa kimgadir maslahat berish.
Salam guys, glad to see you at today's 13th masterclass. As you know, many people have been preparing for IELTS for several years, and because of their mistakes, they do not see any results and progress. That's why today's speaker, IELTS 8.5 holder, Ibrat Camp Best Trainer 2022, and a mentor of more than 500 students, Ozodbek Botiraliyev will speak about 7 deadly sins in IELTS preparation. But before that, I would like to invite a person who made this masterclass possible. The head of YOS agency, and the director, and Alisher Sadullayev on the stage.
Assalomu alaykum. Hammalarni ko'rib turganimdan xursandman. Ha, rostini aytsam, sizlarni communitylar anchadan beri mana faoliyat yurityapti. Ishtirokchilar har doim qiziq kontent bo'lgan vaqtda 400 ta, 300 talarni ham ko'rdik. Bitta savol bermoqchiman. Har safar shu savolni beraman. Ichingizda biror marta ham shu sessiyalarni master-klass qoldirmasdan kelayotganlar bormi? Qoldirmasdan. Ya'ni aytaylik, ketma-ket 3 tasiga keldingiz yoki 4 tasiga keldingiz. Ketma-ketlik kelganingiz. Hoppa, ichimizda demak bitta ham qoldirmasdan kelgan odam yo'q. Hamma qaysidir qoldirgan. Xo'p, yaxshi. Jami nechta bo'lgan master-klass? 13-simi? 13 tadan bitta ham qoldirmagan odam yo'q ekan ichimizda. Men nimaga bu savol beraman, sizlarga aytaman javobini. Ikkinchisi, 13 tadan sizlar sanaysizlar kelganlar, necha marta kelganlar, to'g'rimi? 13 tadan mana ikkitasiga kelmaganlar. 11 tasiga kelgansizlar. Bormi shunaqa ichimizda? 3 tasiga kelmaganlar. 10 tasiga kelganlar. Sanab planning. Misol uchun 10 ta bo'ladi, 10 tasiga ham boraman degan. 9 tasi. Bitta odam chiqdi. Demak, siz 4 tasiga kelmagansiz, 9 tasiga kelgansiz. Zo'r. 8 tasiga kelganlar. 5 tasiga kelmaganlar. 2 ta bo'ldinglar. Siz hamda endi shu jumladan 7 tasiga 3 ta bo'ldinglar. 6 tasiga 7 tacha bo'ldinglar. 7-8 ta bo'ldinglar. 5 tasiga 4 ta 4 tasiga kelganlar demoqchiman-da. 3 tasiga kelganlar. Ya'ni 10 tasiga kelmasdan turib 3-chi marta kelishinglar bugun. 3-hafta desa ham bo'ladi. 2 tasiga kelganlar. 20 ta, 15 ta chiqar ekansizlar. 2 tasiga kelganlar, 2 ta. 2 ta. Bittachi. Bugun birinchi marta kelayotganlar. Hamma qo'lni ko'tarish kerak-ku. Xo'p, nimaga men bu savolni berdim bilasizlarmi? Til o'rganishda men ko'p o'zimga savol berganman-da. Nimaga misol uchun kimdir umuman hayotda nimaga kimdir tezkor qadam tashlaydi, kimdir ko'proq muvaffaqiyatga erishadi, kimdir hayotda misol uchun kamroq muvaffaqiyatga erishadi. Endi avvalo bu rizq, insonning taqdiri deyishlar mumkin, insonni o'ziga bog'liq. Lekin bitta narsani hisobga olishimiz kerak edi. Men misol uchun ko'p o'zim formulalar qidirganman-da. Nima qilsa inson ko'proq rivojlanadi, qanaqa bo'ladi desa, inson qachonki o'zini bo'sh vaqt degani umuman hayotini rejalashtirishi o'z qo'liga olsa. Ichinglarda James Clear'ni Atom odatlar degan kitobini o'qiganlar bormi? Atomic Habits. Zo'r. Xo'p, James Clear bitta gapni ilgari suradi, bitta g'oyani, juda qiziq g'oya. Agar inson o'zida bitta ijobiy odat shakllantirmoqchi bo'lsa, u iloji boricha odamni ko'ziga tashlanadigan joyda bo'lish kerak deydi. O'qigansizlarmi shu joyni? Xo'p, endi shu o'qiganlardan men eshitmoqchiman kimdirdan. Shuni o'qiganingizdan keyin qanaqa qilib amal qilgansiz? Misol, qaysidir odatda boshlaganmisizlar o'zingiz ijobiy? Ichingizda bormi shunaqa odam? Kitobni o'qidingiz, ijobiy odat shakllantirish kerakligini tushundingiz va ijobiy odat shakllantirish uchun harakat qilib ko'rdingizmi? Marhamat. Menga juda qiziq sizlarning fikrlarim, chunki insonning o'zini ichki dunyosini bilmasdan turib biror narsa gapirishdan charchadim deb to'g'risi. Har safar gapiraman, odamlar eshitmaydi baribir.
Shu suv ichish masalasida.
Suv ichish. Zo'r. 8 ta stakanga ichdimi? Qani suv hozir oldingizda bormi suvingiz?
Bor. Hozir endi suv emas-ku, kola-da. Anaqa.
It's not water, it's cola, you know. It's coke.
Kechqurun tayyorlab qo'yib, o'sha yotog'imni oldiga, shu tumbuchkaga qo'yadigan bo'ldim. Ertalab turib, yarim litr sразу
Very easy habit.
Yes.
And very nice choice. Very nice, by the way. Xo'p, yana
Assalomu alaykum.
Va alaykum assalom.
Menga ertalab barvaqt uyg'onish problema bo'lgan. Keyin tiny change qilib, har kuni 3 minut barvaqtga qo'yadigan qilib odat qilganman. Budilnikda.
Shu kitob o'qiganingizdan keyin.
Menga o'zim o'qimagandim, ma'nosini gapirib berganda o'rtog'im.
Zo'r.
Shunaqa
Shunaqa qila oldingizmi? Shunaqa qila oldingizmi?
Ha, xudoga shukr.
Good.
Bir oyda bir soatdan ko'proq raznica bo'ldi ertalab uyg'onadigan vaqt.
Qoyil. Consistency. Nechta ibrat master-klass kelgansiz?
Today is the first one.
First one.
Yes.
I hope that's not going to be the last one.
I hope.
Thank you. So my example is like this. I have had a conversation with a couple of young people a month ago. They just popped up. I mean, it's a daily coincidence. Someone buzzes me up and says, like, you know, Alisher, can I take a photo with you? I was like, can I tell you something? I got a little problem. No one is solving my problem. Can you solve it? Or they tweet, they comment on my Instagram, Facebook, or any social media pages where you see me saying, like, I'm a student. Can you make Alisher Sadullayev Library 24/7? I said, like, no, I'll try. I'll do my best. But not all the time that happens. So my idea of successful attitude is inconsistency. Last time, I spoke the same. I asked you the question, how many times you've been here? If you were probably a participant who has been taking part in this masterclass since the first lesson, you probably would know what am I talking about. But I highly doubt you have an idea what I am actually trying to explain. So my main goal of instilling into someone's mind a new habit should be as easy as a pie. What do I mean by this? For example, menga yaqinda savol berishdi. Nimaga siz dedi? Yo'q, menga nima deyishmadi? Menga aytishdiki, men ham sizdan ko'rib Telegramga kitoblarning rasmini qo'yishni boshladim deyishdi. Profilimga. Like avatar. Hamma kitoblarni qo'yib chiqqan kimdir o'qiganlarni. Mine is probably 19s or probably 20s or over. So, keyin men javob berdim. Siz nimaga mana shu kitoblarni qo'yadi deb o'ylaysiz deb savol berganimda, u yosh aytdiki, bizga o'xshagan yoshlarni motivatsiya qilish uchun o'qigan kitoblaringizni ko'rsatsangiz, biz ham shu savollarni sizga bermasdan turib, juda aqlli-da, men nima aqlli desam, sizdan ko'p savol so'raydi yoshlar, qaysi kitobni o'qisam bo'ladi? Shuncha profilingizga o'qib qo'ygansiz, kim sizga kirib savol bermoqchi bo'lsa, oldindan javobini olaveradi. Yo'q, dedim, bu emas dedim. Boshqa menda yechim bor desam, nima u deydi? I am too selfish, you know, it's like too much individualized. I mean, I believe first in the God's power first, second in myself a lot. Since my childhood, I never asked my parents to go after me to school. I told them I'll deal with school administration myself. I made money for my tuition, for our house and so forth and everything. So my life had lots of ups and downs. And the interesting thing is, man javob bergan joyimda unga aytdimki, Bilasizmi, dedim, sababi bu sizni ruhlantirish yoki sizga bir qaysidir kitob o'qish uchun emas, bu o'zim uchun dedim. Keyin ular menga qaradilar, qanaqa qilib o'zingiz uchun siz profilingizga qo'yib qo'yasiz? Boshqalar uchun emasmi bu? Tipa maqtanish yoki tipa kimgadir maslahat berish? Yo'q, unaqa emas. Men o'sha profilimga kitob qo'yib qo'yman-ku Telegramga. Men rosa o'yladim kuni bilan. Eng ko'p vaqtimni o'tkazadigan joy qayer? Nara reading zone. Men kechqurun uyga boraman, 2 soat uyda bo'laman. Reading zone'ga kitob qo'ysam, u chang bosib ketadi. Ishxonaga kelaman, ishxonada 3 soat o'tiraman, qishloqqa ketaman va hokazo. What I always hold with myself. What is always with me? My phone. I thought about this, my phone. Okay, association. What should I have? First, I thought background photo. Yeah, I should set my background photo with a certain book because each time I open it, I see shu kitob hali ham boshlamadim. Backgroundga qo'yib qo'yganman rasmini, hali ham boshlamadim. 2 oy bo'lib ketdi, datasini yozib qo'yaman. When I set this photo, I look at it, my mind says, you're lazy, man. Boyagi bola menga siz bizga ko'rsatish uchun kitob qo'yasiz. Yo'q, men o'zimni laziness'imni yengish uchun qo'yaman. Har safar profilim kirganimda nimaga shu hali ham eski fotoim turibdi deyman. You want to wear something new, right? Clothes. Yangi ko'ylak kiyim kiygili keladi-yu. Garderob ochganda har safar bir xil kiyimni kiyaversanglar charchaysizlar-da. Yangisini ko'rgili keladi, yangisini olgili keladi. I think of Telegram avatar like this. I open it every day, the same photo. People want to set their new photos. Sizlar Facebookda, Telegramda, Instagramda hamma avatarkasini o'zgartirib, yangi chiroyli rasmini qo'ygisi keladi. Chiroyli narsalarni ko'rsatgisi keladi. Va yana hamda ko'proq jamoatchining e'tiborini qozongisi keladi. It's right for all of us. I mean, except some of those individuals who probably, totally different from us. Perhaps they have different values. Mani fikrimcha, men shu fotoni qo'yganimda har kun, har soniya kiramanda necha bet o'qidim deyman. Menga eng yaqin narsa shu Telegramdagi avatar. Backgroundga qizimning rasmini qo'yib qo'yganman, kichkina qizimni, Sadiyani. Oilamga bo'lgan muhabbatim, sevgimni ko'rsatib turish uchun har doim, ya'ni yaqinligim, ular bilan birgaligimni his qilishim uchun. Lekin Telegramdagi avatarga qo'ygan rasmim menda birinchi o'rinda kitob turadi. Bu kimgadir eslatma uchun emas, o'zim uchun. Har safar kirib ochib o'qishim uchun. Va bu narsa menga juda katta force, meni juda qattiq majburlaydi. Chunki men juda self-criticalman. Hattoki juda self-critical bo'lsangiz ham, ba'zida siz erkinlik berasiz o'zingiz grafikingizga, hayotingizga va hokazo. Endi men savol berganim nimaga? Xo'p, hattoki men shu Telegramdagi avatar rasmim bilan o'zimni tarbiyalanish uchun foydalansam, why would you miss 13 master-class lessons? I mean, you got 13. Maybe some of you heard about this for the first time. That's okay. Not talking about you. But the guys who missed it, that's a unique opportunity. The seats are already full, but still are empty, some of them. But my idea of masterclass is that if you want to be successful in anything, doesn't matter, English, life matters, career, or networking, or people around you who probably you think would dream of becoming in your shoes, depends on how you first formulate your strategy for making good habits in your free time. And that's the ultimate goal. Today, who has taken the first step today to come here and to watch and listen and talk to masterclass holder, I would say, is those who made this decision. And keep this up. I mean, if you give it up, you lose the consistency. In your place, I wouldn't. I remember I attended more than thousands of seminars to make it available and to talk to inspire other people, to perhaps form a good team in my ministry. Imagine becoming a Vice Minister of Public Education in 22 and probably dealing with 6.5 million kids and 700,000 teachers in over 10,000 schools. That's a very large number. I mean, if you look at this number, it's big, it's gigantic, and perhaps intimidating. And my main mission and goal to instill into your mind is becoming a consistent person. Not me, you. If you become consistent, you become more committed to learning. That's the only key. That's the only success. That's the only element of success. A little question. Who's heard of Bayraktar? drones. Drones. No? No? Defense drones. Baykar team. No, not at all. No one knows about it. Okay, you know it. So, Bayraktar is one of the most expensive and state-of-the-art defense drones now in the world. And TB2 is the smallest type or prototype of such drones. And it costs $6 million. In Uzbek soms, it's around 61 milyard so'm, 62 milyard so'm. So $6 million. A little TB2, a drone. You know, drone, which means without human control. It flies itself. You fly it distantly. So the thing is, with Baykar team, is that I recently had a chance to welcome the CEO, Selçuk Bayraktar, Baykar team CEO, Chief Executive Officer. And he told me one thing that made me boggle my mind. I thought about this over and over. I couldn't find the solution or the key to what he said. He said, Alisher, look at this building, Samarkand, Registan. Is there anyone who's from Samarkand? Should be? No one? You guys are so much timid or probably modest, or you want to tell anything. So, my friend asked me a question, like, very successful entrepreneur. Look at this Registan square. And he asked me a question, why they would be able to build such a gigantic building back in the past. But now, like 600 years after or past, we cannot do something of that size. I mean, Islamic world, Muslims he's talking about. We thought about this a lot, and he had, at the end of the day, he said, the only difference between those people, our ancestors back in the past and now, is that whatever they did, they had a great commitment to it. Very strict, strong. They understood it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to live, to live and leave legacy after themselves. Amr Timur, Babur, Alisher Nawai, Mirza Ozodbek, whoever you may name, they believed in the power of commitment. They thought that if human being is committed to something very strong, it becomes possible. But if you think at one point that it's very hard and you have to give up, you give it up, your idea, for some of those trouble that you probably faced in your life. English is of that sort, I would say. It's a little marathon, not a sprint. But many of us think that many things around us are sprints. But that's not a sprint. It's a marathon. At one point, you think you should be successful, but you lose and you give it up. My main mission today is to explain you, please be committed to your goals, to your fields of expertise. You're a biologist. Become the best of biologists ever. You're a dentist. Become the best of the dentists. You're a teacher. Become the best of the teachers. You have this opportunity. Take advantage of it. And this platform, I think, should serve this goal, should serve this purpose. I haven't seen any of such committed young people since I attended Ibrat master-class. Why would you ask? Because a committed person at least once comes up to me and says, hey, Alisher, I have a question. What's the question? First, second, third. Can you answer? I will definitely answer. So please, if you have anything to tell me, I'm open, recipient to new ideas, to new projects, and everything around. Just let me know. Ozodbek, I ate up some of your time, I'm sorry, but you had more communication with people than I did, so I thought I have a little right to sacrifice your time. But I hope you will compensate it for people. I think you didn't find it boring. If you found it boring, just tell me. I'm not going to come up on the stage any longer. I will. So it's like last but not least, I will teach you a life motto, a little thing, so you would remember that for me as a gift for your memory. A friend of mine back in the past who lived in the UK, worked a lot and so forth, he had a very different accent than most of the British guys there in Uzbekistan and so forth. So whenever he would say think, like think about this, he would say sink. It's like when you sink, yeah, you dive into something accidentally. Yes, sink. It's like that was a lesson. It's like a couple of guys who were there, and very interesting lesson and so forth. So, and that guy who was there and who was lecturing us and so forth, teaching us something back then. Of a guy that I was talking about who mispronounced the word think like sink. The lecturer came on the stage and he talked a lot of things and so forth, and it was a business class where we were getting some insights about entrepreneurial cases and so forth. So the guy came on the stage and the lecturer were there and so forth, and they had a little conversation. And that lecturer, we remember that, like I would say Zafar, it's like Zafar, you have to think, not sink, you know. And each time that guy was trying to, say sink is like, never talk about in business about sinking, Talk about thinking, right? And still we remember that, like that lecture would start with sink and think and end with sink and think. So I hope that you're not gonna think about what I said. You're gonna think about it. So think about what I said, but don't ever sink, all right? So thank you very much, guys.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to our talk. Now, when I first was coming here, I thought to myself, this time we're not gonna have any jokes, all right? But then the girl with the Coke got me started, and really, I can't stop. I can't stop laughing. Like, yes, I drink 8 cups of water, yeah, but now I have Coke. So today we're gonna talk about 7 deadly sins in IELTS preparation, all right? And I will try to keep my jokes to the minimum and make it as beneficial as possible. I hope you have as much fun as I do on my own in this presentation. So first things first, let's talk about the types of IELTS students, all right? I've personally been teaching IELTS since 2017, and I've had more than 500 students, both online and on-site. So I took my time to categorize the types of students we have in IELTS courses, all right? So the first type is bright students, all right? All teachers have had bright students. These guys do all the homework you give them, and then some, all right? They never miss your classes, they never come late, they're unbelievable, all right? In fact, they are so bright that I have to wear my sunglasses when I teach them. And that's why I'm not wearing sunglasses here. Because it's, yeah, you got the joke. The second type of students is sleepy students. All right? Now, these guys are always sleeping in your lessons. Whether this is the first class, whether this is the second class, or the last, doesn't really matter. In fact, you might be a sleepy student, okay? One time I came to my student and I told him, look, why are you sleeping in my class? He goes like, why are you teaching during my sleep? You know? So the third type of students is also very interesting. I call them Agent 007, Agents 007. They wrote 0 essays, they read 0 articles, they want to get 7 in writing, you know? Which is also very funny, yes. And then we have the fourth type, which is very interesting. Now these guys are advice seekers. Always looking out for advice. I have problems with my listening, what can I do? I got problems with my reading, what can I do? Etc., etc., etc. Now, By the way, this picture, I will be using this picture whenever I couldn't find a good, proper picture on the internet, okay? This is a universal picture. Again, I remember one guy came up to me and said, Ozodbek, this day, like in the morning I saw on Facebook a post, IELTS'dan 30 kunda 6+ olish. And then he's asking me a question. IELTS'dan 30 kunda 6 olish uchun yaratilgan gruppalarda necha oy o'qish kerak ekan? You know, this is also very funny, yes. Now, I don't have all the answers to these questions. There is so much IELTS advice out there. Here I compiled a number of mistakes, number of sins, okay, which you should be avoiding at all costs in your IELTS preparation, whether you are a student or a teacher. Okay, so let's go. The first sin on the projector, on the screen. The first sin. Oh, by the way, yeah, sorry. The advice of all time, like, let's just skip this one, yes. IELTS is not your uncle, yes. I forgot this part. Okay, we can just skip to the next one. Okay. The first sin is taking IELTS when you feel ready. We need the next slide. Taking IELTS, again, I confused. See, this is the problem. Before we start with the advice, let me just give you a few disclaimers. Disclaimer in Russian is отказ от ответственности, all right? We have two important disclaimers to make in this presentation. First disclaimer is my advice is not applicable to 100% of IELTS takers 100% of the time, okay? This is a very serious disclaimer. I'm not here to argue with your teachers. I'm not here to argue with your friends who got a high score. Maybe what they're advising you is different from my advice. That's not a problem, okay? It's just an opinion. Now, the second disclaimer is that all of my advice, which I give you here, is worth nothing unless you implement it, okay? So if I tell you to do X and you don't do X, don't come for me asking for Y, W, and whatnot, all right? This is the second disclaimer. And the third disclaimer is, I'm terrible at counting, okay? Let that slip, yes. Ikkita disclaimer bitta, chunki tepada yozib qo'yganmiz. Mayli, keyingisiga o'taylik. All right, can we have the next slide? Yes. Now, so here comes the first sin. Taking IELTS when you feel ready. All right. Now let me put it as bluntly as possible. After teaching IELTS for 6 years, you know, after around 1,500 students of mine got their certificates, I understood one thing. You'll never ever feel ready for IELTS. Even me, I need time to prepare for it. However, that doesn't mean you should delay and postpone your exam until like forever. Delaying doesn't help, okay? I know all of us are procrastinators. I mean, I did this presentation 5 minutes before I came here, all right? Yes. So if you want to keep IELTS until you feel ready, like, that's never going to happen. We talked about this many times. There is something called the Parkinson law. If you have 1 hour to clean your room, you're going to clean it in 1 hour. If you have 2 hours to clean your room, you're going to clean it in how many hours? 2 hours. That's how it works. I mean, yeah, there are some strategies and tips I could give you, but they don't work. So for example, when I started this month, November, I started a challenge, reading 10 books a month, okay? And I said to myself, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read 100 pages every day, and if for any reason I don't read 100 pages, the remainder, I'm gonna read it up the next day. Today is the 6th of November. I have 500 pages to read. All right? So these things, they don't always work. So let's just bear that in mind. Confer with your IELTS instructor, pray 2 rakats of istikhara, whatever, and just register for the IELTS exam. That's how it works, all right? 2 or 3 months. It's not about months, it's about hours. You may take 6 months to prepare, but if you're only putting in 1 hour of hard work every day, is it as good as putting 4 hours every day for 3 months? Definitely not. So this is the first thing to bear in mind. So we can move to the next advice now. Neglecting your general English, all right? So Lincoln, yes, he did say a beautiful quote like, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 6 hours sharpening my axe. If you had 8 months for IELTS preparation, you had better spend the first 6 months working on your general English. IELTS is just there to test your knowledge. General English is your knowledge, okay? It's as simple as that. Now, back in Andijan, in 2014, you know, when we started preparing, they had a nice system, which I think is great. You can't study IELTS until you finish advanced courses. Right now, it's like students are coming, I want to get IELTS, I want to study in an IELTS course. Okay, which level are you? Elementary. Oh, great, you know. So you were the guy in the video who said, how are you from, you know? So I had to answer, I'm from fine things. Now, let's look at the joke here in the next slide. Why did Eshmat get 8.5 in IELTS while I got 5.5? Simple. Eshmat studied English, you studied IELTS. Okay, don't make this mistake. Don't come to me asking for IELTS advice if your general English is awful, you know. The third sin, great. Obsession with practice tests, all right? Obsession with practice tests. It really happens all the time. I think majority of students, all they want to do is what? Practice tests, practice tests, practice tests. Totally defeats the purpose of preparing for IELTS. Now, are practice tests even useful? The answer is yes and no. Okay? There is certain extent to which IELTS essays will help you. For example, with learning the IELTS format. Okay? It can also help you to improve your time management. But if you keep doing just practice tests, I personally don't believe it's an effective method to study. It's one way to prepare for IELTS. I know some teachers do just like that. However, let's think about it. What's the problem with practice tests? First of all, your results are always gonna fluctuate. That's a problem. If you do one listening test now, you may find 30 correct answers. If you do another listening test back to back, you're gonna get 34 answers. Does it mean your listening has improved? I hardly think so. So the results are unpredictable. When I took IELTS for the first time, I did 5 full mock tests. So far, I mean, I don't want to ask questions because when Alisher asked questions, nobody raised their hands. But raise your hands if you've done more than 10 Cambridge books, if you finished them. Oh, we got some people, all right? Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, all of them, oh, mine, you know, I personally haven't finished all of them. So how do you approach practice tests? How do you approach practice tests? You have to make sure to use them to check your progress, okay? Not to learn, not necessarily to learn. I will, at the end of the presentation, if we have time, I will talk about how you could use practice tests to boost your English, all right? Like Tutor Behruz last time said that reading passages are awesome for improving your English. That's correct. There are a few caveats. Now, this is the third sin, obsessing with practice tests. My personal advice to you, if you so badly want to do practice tests, do once in a week, okay? The full test. Full tests are boring, they are a headache. You know, I can't stand them. This is my personal advice to you, take it or leave it. Yes, let's move to the next one. Now, here comes the kicker. The fourth sin in IELTS preparation is not understanding the format. Not understanding the format, especially in writing and speaking. I'm a very staunch proponent, or let's say opponent, of using the word purchase in speaking. I've said this millions of times on my channels, in my voice chats. In the IELTS speaking, if you have a choice between using the word buy and the word purchase, which one should we use? The word buy should be used in this. Okay, the word buy, you should use the word buy in IELTS speaking. And the reasoning is very simple. In Uzbek, let's say you bought a new phone. Do you tell your friends, yangi telefon xarid qilib oldim? Or do you say, yangi telefon oldim? Yangi telefon oldim, in Tashkent accent. Makes sense, right? So the goal of the IELTS speaking is to speak like a native speaker. If you don't understand the test format, you're going to end up using words that native speakers themselves don't use, or use them hardly ever. Again, like words like furthermore, therefore. I'm not a big fan of these phrases, okay? So that's why a big sin would be not understanding the test format, what's required of you. And we have an example on the board. So the writing, look, here you have two fragments of an introduction. Raise your hands if you ever wrote an introduction. Yes, in IELTS. Great, yes, thank you. Raise your hands if you've ever been asked to raise your hands. Okay, so you have here two sentences. One is much better than the other, all right? The first sentence, in the following, now this comes the last third sentence in the introduction. In the following paragraphs, both views will be scrutinized and a final verdict will be reached. Now, the grammar is all right. The vocabulary is immaculate. Verdict, scrutinize. Is that great? The problem is it's a memorized sentence. It's a memorized sentence. If you read the band descriptors, there's only 3 ways to get 1. Or 0, sorry. If you read the band descriptors, there are 3 ways to get a 0. Either you don't come to the exam at all, or you leave your answer sheets blank, you didn't write anything. And third option is you wrote a memorized response. Okay? Now, it's also other problems, but I don't want to turn this into a writing discussion, and I could talk about writing for hours, okay? The problem here is no opinion is presented, okay? And the band descriptors clearly say you should present your personal opinion throughout the graph. The second sentence is much better. Yes, it's shorter. Yes, it doesn't have fancy vocabulary, but guess what? This sentence was taken out of Paul & Collins' Band 9 essay. Personally, I agree with the latter point of view. It's not memorized. It has a clear position. Okay? So see, these are the kinds of problems that are going to pop up on your way when you don't understand the format. Lack of comprehensible input. I always tell my students, look, the key to improving your English is immersion. That makes a lot of sense. But immersion, so what do we understand by immersion? It's basically listening to lots of English, reading lots of books, reading lots of articles. This is immersion, correct? But you want to improve your English. You don't start with The Economist. You don't start with the Washington Post if you don't understand anything. So here you have 2 levels. You have something that's too challenging for you. Obviously, if you're just intermediate, it's not a good idea to start with C, level papers, serious papers. Too challenging, your current level. Comprehensible input is what? It's something in the middle, okay? Something you can understand, but still there is some new information for you. New phrases, new vocabulary, new grammar. That's the key here. That's the goal. Now, look, here's my very simple advice to you. If you're a teacher especially, one of my students asked me from my speaking course, like, if I practice speaking, will my speaking improve? The answer is yes and no. If you just practice, keep practicing. Imagine counting from 1 to 10 over and over again. Yes, you will learn how to count from 1 to 10 effectively, but will you learn 11, 12, 13, 14? Obviously not. That's why just practicing speaking may not be helpful. What should you do is, it's simple. You consume lots of authentic English, reading articles, reading books, reading, watching stuff, etc. My recommendation, start easy and then slowly build up your way to The Economist, to the Washington Post, and whatnot, before you guys turn into sleepy students. Okay, yeah, well, let's face it, not having an IELTS instructor is a problem, okay? And I'm not saying this as an IELTS instructor, but as someone who has seen so many students, get a rather poor score. You could, can you prepare for IELTS without an IELTS instructor? Definitely yes. There are lots of students who did that, okay? But they are the exception, they are not the general rule, okay? So if you have an experienced teacher, we don't know who is a good teacher, right? Defining a good teacher is harder than you think. It's not just their knowledge, their experience, their certificates. Certificates don't mean anything. I have seen a girl who got 8.5 in IELTS. Her teacher had a 6.5, okay? However, if you have a good, okay, good. Good degan narsani define qilish qiyinligi uchun, let's use, if you have an experienced teacher, he or she may be able to tell you what's wrong in your preparation, okay? And they can accelerate your progress a lot. That's one of the, I think, it's a no-brainer. It's not rocket science. If you can afford to go to a good teacher, definitely do so, all right? If not, then tough luck, more power to you. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, here we have a different format. We have the example first, and you have to guess the sin. In this speaking exam, you should keep eye contact with the examiner and smile. What's the sin here?
It's not written in, band descriptor of the speaking. Yeah, it's my opinion. And it doesn't improve speaking because everybody's character is different. And they focus only the English level, not the personality. Introvert, yes. Extrovert, something like that.
Thank you, yes. I think your answer is not wrong.
When I entered in my speaking exam, I was with team, team examiner, and I just used this tip. I just kept keeping eye contact with the examiner, and then I just smiled, and I just used all the advanced vocabulary. And after that, I just met Tim, and he just said, "Miss, get to the lights." Even though your vocabulary is so good, and you just can use all the words and all the grammatical sentences rightly, if you don't have any emotion in your words, they may not give you a 9 or higher scores. I think this is my own opinion. You should always be confident with your own words and something just like that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your opinions. Now, to put it shortly, it's following bad IELTS advice, all right? This is following bad IELTS advice. There is lots of bad IELTS advice, okay? I remember attending an IELTS workshop, and there was a girl, she had an 8, overall 8, which by the way tells you that just because you have a certificate doesn't really mean anything. And she was showing a video of Saskia about confidence. Saskia, she got 9 in speaking, okay? So she's giving the answer, she pauses the video, stops, and looks at the audience. Have you seen that? That is the key to IELTS speaking. I was like, okay, what was it? Is it the grammar? Is it the vocabulary? Was it the fluency? She goes like, the smile on her face, the confidence. Oh, really? Like, you gather us here for an IELTS workshop and you tell me about smiling at the examiner? Now, smiling, yes, maybe it's not part of the band descriptors, but what's even problematic is that smiling can potentially do you harm. How so? Imagine you are talking about a very painful experience in your life. I had one of my students, I was depressed. My life was going down the hill, and I'm like, they're sitting traumatized. She has a big smile on her face, Does it show to the examiner that you don't understand what you're talking about, right? That something is wrong, you don't understand the vocabulary. Depression is a serious problem, okay? Does it exist or not? It's a question for another topic, maybe. Yes, Andrew Tate's notes. Now, smiling, yes, forget about smiling, just following bad advice. There's so much bad advice out there. That's why my advice to you is follow credible sources. Yes, can we have the next slide, please, Ora? There are my favorite YouTube channels and also websites. You have E2IELTS. This one is my favorite. It's not the best one. I like it. Okay, there is Mark. There is a guy called Mark. There is Alex. Okay, and their content is pretty informative. They do podcasts with the examiners themselves. I like their writing a lot. Then you have IELTS Advantage, which is a great website, especially if you're a teacher. Okay, you can log on Google and find lots of sources, like lots of awesome articles, very neat, very to the point. And then you have Paul and Colin, who is really, yes, the mother of IELTS, okay? She did start her YouTube channel recently. It's not full of content, but something to think about. All right. Now, fine. What else do we have here? I guess probably, no, wait. Before moving on, let's summarize all the 8 deadly sins we talked about, okay? The first one was what? Yes, you should shout out, yes. Sorry, yes, what? IELTS is not your uncle? No, this is advice. Look, the first one, taking IELTS when you feel ready. Yes. I remember the scene from Family Guy, you know. There is the dog and there is, what's the small guy? Stewie, yes. Stewie says, can you sing me a song? I got rhythm. I got rhythm. The name of the song is I Got Rhythm. And then the dog says, well, okay, can I say da when I don't know the words? Can I say da when I don't know the words? And I said, okay, fine, we don't have any other choice. Go ahead. So the dog starts singing da rhythm. Okay. The dog looks at him, and Stewie looks at him and he says, wait, you're starting with da? I mean, it's the name I Got Rhythm. Okay? And then the dog says, fine, let's do it again. And then he goes, I got da. The name of the song is what? I Got Rhythm, yes. Again, he botched that. So Stewie says, fine, guys. You couldn't do it, I will do it myself. And then he starts singing, I got rhythm, da, music. The dog looks at him and says, oh, you are the expert. Okay. Now, if you don't remember the advice, just say da. Deal? Fine. So the first sin was taking IELTS when you feel ready. The second advice was what? Neglecting your English. Very good, yes. Third one, obsession with practice. Guys, da. Da, rhythm деп тұрайлы хотя бы. Hope. That was the third one, yes. Obsessing with IELTS practice tests. The fourth one was what? No, before that. Not understanding IELTS format, yes. Okay, let's move to the next one. Lack of comprehensible input. Very good, yes. Next. Very good, yes. Not having an IELTS instructor. Yes, and the last one is what? Following bad IELTS advice, yes. Yes. Ekranda ham ko'ramiz buni. Here, yes. In my opinion, this is not an exhaustive list. There are many more sins in IELTS preparation. There are many more IELTS jokes and memes we could talk about. I'm sorry, we couldn't add them here. Maybe in the Q&A part, yes, if some of you ask the right question, I will be able to plug in the joke or the meme. So, last thing I want to mention is, outside of all this bad and good IELTS advice, my sincere recommendation would be to, if you're an IELTS taker and if you're not an IELTS instructor, okay, stop obsessing with your IELTS score. This is the topic we discussed thoroughly with Tutor Bekhrous in our podcast. Look, if 6.5 is enough for you, it's enough for you. If 5.5 is enough for you, it's enough for you. All right? There's no need to make our lives, there's no need to turn our lives into hell. Okay? Just let it flow, let it go with the flow. The last advice is on the screen, or it's just a reminder for myself and you. If I ever take IELTS again, it will not be to improve my score, okay? It will be to improve my writing, to apply for universities, whatnot. You are more than a test score. Think about it. Alisher advice and follow Claudia. It was a bad advice, okay? Next time we're going to talk about 7 deadly sins in giving advice. Yes, whenever you give advice to someone, always finish with, I don't know, though, Okay. Mabodo hayot barbod bo'lib ketadigan bo'lsa. Shu sabab maslahatingizni deb. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening to me all this long. If you have any questions or comments, whatnot, you can ask them and we'll try to give our best answer. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that. Okay, a Chinese person in China, he took that speaking and he didn't look at the examiner straight ahead. He was like, he was turning down, I mean, with his chair, and he was not looking, he was looking at the wall. So do you think that it is a myth or is it a true story?
I don't know.
So is it possible like not to look at the examiner at all?
Actually, yes. I heard my friends tell me that they had an IELTS with an Alex, infamous Alex. He just roamed around the room. He looked out the window, you know, he drank his coffee, didn't even look at you. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. There's nothing against that, obviously. Unless, of course, you are taking through Zoom, because on Zoom you have to look at the examiner. Yes, maybe.
Okay. So, like recently, Bezod Mirahmedov posted like something like an announcement that Paul Collins videos are underestimated, whereas Asad Yakub's like it gains like 16 million views, but Paul Collins like 3K views. So, what's your attitude for this, and what do you think? Why Paul Collins is so underestimated, where she is a mother of IELTS, but Asad Yakub, he doesn't know even what he's talking about. Because he's not like a native speaker, but most people, I mean, candidates of IELTS who are preparing for IELTS, they follow Asad Yakub as the father of IELTS, but it's not like that.
Yeah. See, it's not surprising. It's all over the place. It's not even an IELTS question. Like, look at Instagram, look at Facebook, YouTube. Do you see intellectuals like doctors being followed by large crowds? Prankers, you know, prankers get followed a lot. But Paul Collins, it's just that she didn't used to run her YouTube channel until recently. And now she's more active, and we hope that her channel will gain traction as well. But you're right. Some channels, they are followed by hundreds of thousands of people. And others, just 7,000, you know. Yes, if you get the joke, yes. Thank you. Oh, just 2 questions, bro? Bo'ldi, savollar yo'q ekan shekilli. Rustam aka, bugun erta tugatamiz.
Is it okay to use a hook in writing? What do you think?
Say again?
Is it okay to use a hook
in
sentence?
writing?
Yeah, in the introduction.
That's a good question. I don't think you have to use a hook.
Mm-hmm.
You could use a hook, all right? Just some general background statement, not a problem, as long as it's relevant to the topic. Well, I had a student who the topic was social media, you know. She started talking about improvements in technology, which was like very off topic, all right? That's a problem. If your hook is related to the topic, I don't see a problem with that in the first sentence.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So, do you think that reading the first and last sentences of the paragraph helps you to get the right answer of list of opinions exercise?
Yes. I absolutely sure. I wanted to make a video on that, but I didn't have a camera, you know, professional camera, to make that video. But one of my students, I taught them this technique. Basically, matching headings, right? So when you're doing matching headings, 90% of the time, the answer is where? The answer is in the first 2 sentences. All right, very simple. I could show you that, you know, if I had a reading passage with me. So we did that. We found all of the answers using this technique. Yes, 1 out of 10 times, maybe in 10% of the cases, the answer is not in the first 2 sentences. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle at the end. If you are a high scorer, if you want to get 9 in IELTS, maybe then it becomes a bad advice. But when you don't have time to even finish the 3rd passage, when you are struggling with basic reading speed, then it becomes essential, all right? When you read the whole paragraph, it becomes confusing. In the first 2 sentences, it's clear cut, okay? So
I mean, I wish I could base my answer on empirical evidence. Maybe this coming week I will make a video. I will post it on YouTube, okay? That it actually works. Bitta video bor shu 1,5 minutda prosmotr bo'lganda YouTube'da kirib ko'rsanglar bo'ladi. Shuni tashlab yuboraman sizlarga.
Yeah, I'll lend with my camera.
Oh, thank you. Yes, but like I said, 90% of the times, if you want to get 9, then it becomes a bad advice. It's better not to risk your perfect 9 score. If you're scoring 6.57 like people in this audience, then no problem. Read just the first. Yes, sorry guys, yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Ozodbek. I know that every single teacher, IELTS tutor, say just in order to improve our English and general English at all, we gotta surround us with authentic materials and English, you know. And but not everyone tells us how to analyze articles or sample answers correctly in order to like get more advantage from them. And how to? And my question is that how to analyze articles correctly. And the second one is how can we just improve our pronunciation in speaking, and how can we just develop our ideas in speaking section.
Thank you. That was a threefold question. I'll start. Menimcha shunaqa bo'lganda, ikkita savol bersam maylimi deganda. No, only one question is allowed deganda. Okay, then I have one question which has two parts. Okay, let's start with pronunciation. Now, all right, yes. My advice, basically, what's the criteria for pronunciation? Two things. Be intelligible. Don't mix accents. That's the golden rule, right? Be intelligible. Intelligible means it's easy to understand what you're saying. All right? Like, for example, one time I had a student, he asked me, what means drosh? You know? I was like, drosh? Oh, and I started looking for that word in my mind. It turns out the word was draw, you know, with the W. The guy read as drosh, you know. So you want to make sure your pronunciation is intelligible, first things first. Then stop mixing accents. For God's sake, stop mixing accents. Say can't, okay? Nobody should speak British accent, okay? There is only American accent, and there are mistakes though. So one of our friends, Ozodbek, he runs a channel of his own. He was a great American speaker. His American pronunciation was top-notch. But then, for some reasons, decided to switch to British accent. And now we have three kinds of accents. You have American accent, you have British accent, and you have Ozodbek's accent. Which is like not understandable at all, yes. So what you should do is you need to pick a speaker on YouTube, okay, whom you admire, look up to, who you can listen for long hours, non-stop, right? For me, it was Omar Sulaiman, for example. A lot of people say I speak like him. Maybe that's true. You want to pick one person on YouTube and then just stick to that person, right? And just try to imitate the way they speak, their intonation, their pronunciation, and whatnot. Okay, this is the advice on pronunciation. Now, as far as analyzing stuff is concerned, like we said, at first it's better to start easy, then work your way up to more difficult texts. You don't start with The Economist. When you read an article, how do you analyze the article? Now, it's better to work with, I think if your English is advanced, to work with reading passages, right? When you do a reading passage, what you should do is after you're done answering all the questions, come back to the passage, mark the vocabulary which A, sounds interesting to you, B, is stopping you from finding the right answer. Okay? Not all vocabulary is great. There is so much vocabulary which is useless in IELTS speaking. Fancy schmancy vocabulary, yes. Now, fancy schmancy is a great word. You can use it in your speaking. But make sure you don't learn every single word. It's useless completely, okay? Let me give an analogy. Learning words which you are not able to use is like working on your six-pack. And then, you know, nobody sees that anyway. It's a useless technique. But just make sure, I mean, a lot of people, all they do is they solve the questions and then they move on to the next passage. That's a mistake. Take your time and analyze it very thoroughly. I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused myself. Yes. Did it answer your question, or do you have follow-up questions?
Okay, my question is about writing. For my writing, I just analyze the essays. I just get some structures and words, but I don't know any other tips. Like, I don't follow the instructions in the books because they're different. I don't know which one to follow. So, but my writing is not that much increasing, so I wanted your tips for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Don't get me started on writing. Okay, this is my. As far as IELTS writing is concerned, I'm like fish in water. Look, does analyzing sample answers help? Again, the answer is what? Yes and no, right? First of all, make sure the answers you're reading are authentic. There are so many essays which are trash, but they are labeled as band 7, band 8, or even band 9, right? That's not true. I mean, I have seen real band 9 essays. I compared them to, for example, band 9 reference books, Cambridge reference books. Okay, there is big difference. This is the first thing. Secondly, it may be that your problem is not necessarily the structure. It may be just punctuation. All right? So lots of problems are connected with punctuation. Simply analyzing these samples, yes, all right, sorry. Simply analyzing these samples may not help you to improve your punctuation. Okay? Instead, you should read posts about punctuation on Grammarly, for example, right? Or your problem may be, which is also very common, task response, task achievement. Task response is the #1 problem in IELTS writing. Not answering the question. This is the #1 problem. If you just make sure you answer the question, you would get a really high score, right? So if your problem is not punctuation, it's not grammar, it's not vocabulary, it's not task response, it's not cohesion and coherence, then yes, go ahead and start analyzing authentic essays written by Simon, Paul and Colin, Ozodbek Botiraliyev. All right? And yes, take fragments from them, copy them. I do that all the time, right? 90% of all of my jokes were taken from internet, okay? Except for the joke with the Coke. That was an original one. Yes, sorry, yes. Drinking 8 cups of water. Does it answer your question in any way?
Yes, kinda.
If you want to follow up, you can ask
okay, like you say it's task achievement, but it's sometimes tough to understand what they are really requiring us to talk about, to write about. And
oh no, not hard at all.
It's structuring and what to include in the essay is not that. Like
yeah, well, I see. But I think task achievement is very simple. But in horror movies, you know, the instructions are very simple. Don't swim in the pool, like. Don't feed the animal. They don't do that. The instructions are very simple. Write 250 words. Okay. Answer the question, giving examples and from your own experience and knowledge. If it says, talk about the advantages and disadvantages, you talk about advantages, disadvantages. That's it. If it says, give us solutions to the problem, you give solutions. That's it. Like, but again, writing is. I think we had better do a separate workshop on writing alone. Okay, and then we could talk about it at length because there is so much, and I don't want to. What time is it, by the way? Are we? Do we have?
It's.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
But thank you for the question. Yes, I hope it's helped.
Thank you. We'll be looking forward.
Assalamu alaikum. In IELTS speaking test, I had something that the exact speaker which is speaking with you, talking with you, will not mark you. Because your conversation will be recorded. And you don't have to impress the exact one who is speaking with you. And there will be someone else who will mark you. Is it true?
No, I don't think so. No, I really don't think so. Because
the guy who is listening to you, that person will be marking your score. Because look, let's think about it. IELTS is one of the most profitable businesses in Australia. The CEO of IDP is the richest CEO there. Okay, the examiners get paid a lot for it, but their pay is hourly. If just to mark your answers, which are sometimes 5.5, sometimes 5, you need 2 examiners listening to the same questions, it doesn't make sense at all. It's not cost effective. Okay, this is the logical answer. However, I did hear because if you read the writing answer sheets, you have first examiner, second examiner, correct? Have you ever seen that? No? Ikkita joy bor-da. Bittasi birinchi examinerga, ikkinchisi ikkinchi examinerga. Unda ham faqat bir kishi tekshiradi aslida. Only one person checks your writing. If your other sections were high, like reading 9, listening 9, speaking 8.5, then 2 people will check your writing, just to be extra cautious. Otherwise, I don't see any reason why 2 people would be wasting their time on one IELTS student.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. What's the most essential part in developing speaking skills? I mean, what do you mean every time you mention general English for speaking? How can we improve our speaking by reading articles? Does it help actually, or
No.
does listening helps us to develop our speaking?
Yes. Does listening help to develop your speaking? Only listening helps to develop your speaking. Reading articles may help to improve your vocabulary or grammar, but look, what I mean by that, you can take your seat. Thank you. Yes, it's hard to stand for a long time. Look, first of all, understand the speaking exam. What's being required of you. Part 1, questions about yourself. No wrong answer. Be yourself. Part 2, part 3, more complex ideas, more advanced structures, better vocabulary, right? And then the number 2 thing is, I have seen so many students whose English is good, but they don't speak naturally. Why? Because they have not been exposed to natural speaking. How do we learn Uzbek language, our mother tongue? By listening to our elders, correct? How are you gonna be? So the whole purpose of an IELTS speaking test is to see how closely you can imitate the native speakers. If you don't listen to native speakers at all, something's wrong in your preparation. Make sure every day you expose yourself to at least 30 minutes of speaking, listening to someone, right? That's a problem. Like when I was learning Arabic at our university, the teachers, for 6 months, we didn't have one listening exercise, which to my mind is the biggest mistake anybody can make when they are starting to learn a new language. The most essential skill in any language acquisition is listening, because everything starts with listening. I remember one of my students told me, he said, when I was a child, I was a kid. Look, all toddlers learn the language through listening, correct? And you have to start the same ways. Expose yourself to lots of English, and then you'll be able to produce natural chunks of language. Like, what's your favorite color? My favorite color is blue, because it's a wonderful color, and it's the color of the sky. This is such a terrible answer, You want to get 5.5 with giving this answer? First of all, how is being the color of the sky wonderful? Okay, why are you repeating part of the question? What's your favorite color? My favorite color is blue, because it's a wonderful color. And see, native speakers don't talk like that. If you listen to a native speaker, meme bor, esimga tushib ketdi. Bir kishi turadi-da, ingliz tilini ustozlardan o'rganadi. Miyasida hech narsa yonmaydi. The next guy learns English from native speakers. Miyasi yatillab ketadi-yu. Okay. Uchinchisi вообще portlab ketadi-da miyasi. U kishi memelardan o'rgangan bo'ladi, yes. He was learning English from memes, yes. You want to make sure to expose yourself to as much natural English as possible. This is the only way you will make If you read the band descriptors, clearly it says band 9 speaker uses idiomatic expressions accurately and naturally. Naturally nima degani? Like native speakers degani. Native speakers qanday o'rganasiz? By listening to them. This is 2 plus 2.
Can you explain us step by step how to analyze videos on YouTube, how to shadow, how should we shadow, or how do we improve our speaking, how should we practice our speaking with our friends, or should we talk about more abstract topics, or in our life should we use it on natural way?
Make sure you enjoy the process of learning English, first of all. Okay, very important. Preparing for IELTS is not, it should not be a dreadful experience. Lots of people, they don't want to come to IELTS courses. Reading is boring, writing is boring, right? They are bored of listening practice tests. Make sure you're enjoying the process. It's fun, it's nice, pleasant, okay? How do you make sure the process is enjoyable? Find a soap opera which you like, anything outside of Friends, okay? Suits, Big Bang Theory, Doctor House. These are all the soap operas I personally watched. Why? Because can we do 5 listening practice tests in a row without getting tired, exhausted, worked up? No, right? Can you watch 5 episodes of your favorite movie? See? Yes, if you just add fun to your learning, then it becomes fun, okay? This is the first advice. This is the first piece of advice. Secondly, make sure you don't limit your learning to classroom. Learning should be happening not in the classroom, but also outside of it. Talk with your friends all the time in English. Make sure your phones are in English, the settings, whatnot, you know. The threshold is simple. If you're seeing your dreams in English, yes, you're learning English, really, okay? If your English are still in Uzbek, in Russian, whatever, then you're not doing your job well. That should be the level of exposure, all right? And yes, practice with your friend, preferably with someone who knows English better than you, so that he can check your mistakes, tell you your problems, right? Pronunciation, whatnot. This is the 3 advice. Make sure you are enjoying the journey, the hustle, add fun to it, right? Speak English all the time. Ingliz tili IELTS o'rganishchi. Ozgina muammolar kelib chiqadi keyinchalik, masalan o'zbek tilida gapira olmay qolasiz normalniy. Buni to'g'rilasa bo'ladi, hech narsa emas. Not a problem. And then the third thing, do some practice tests. Okay, practice test ham menimcha-da eng zo'ri. O'zi IELTS topshirasizlarmi yo'qmi? I don't understand. Raise your hands if you will take IELTS, or you're just most of you, yes. Great, thank you. One girl here doesn't want to take IELTS. Record your answers, listen to them, write down your mistakes, try adding some awesome vocabulary, record your answers again. Shunaqa qilib turib, speaking assistant hammasini tugatib chiqing. Baram 6.5 olib chiqasiz. Okay, this is the best advice I can give you, yes. Thank you.
In summer, there was a rumor of that listening and writing sections will be changed in India. So, and after that, a lot of people in Uzbekistan worried that, so first they will write writing, and then the last will be listening. So the question is, why they change it? And the next question, what was the purpose of changing listening and writing? And is it going to happen in Uzbekistan soon? Yeah, you're not the CEO of the IDP, I know.
Yeah, but I did read some conspiracy theories. They said, okay, in Australia, IELTS is in India, right? Correct, yes. In India, it's also a big business, big market. And the reasoning I have, okay, it's not from IDP, it's not from IELTS. Take it or leave it. Writing is the hardest section in the exam, correct? If I were to miss one single answer in the listening test, I would be so badly demotivated, okay? It would affect my entire score, like my entire test taking. Like the reading okay. The reading would be awful, the writing would be awful because I missed one single answer in the listening section. So maybe if it all starts with writing, and writing is the hardest part, the results are gonna what's gonna happen to the results? You know, massive like drop in the average score, correct? And if the results are not good enough, then if you take IELTS, you don't get the score you want, what do? You take it again. When you take it again, what do? You pay, all right? Well, this is the theory given by one of the subscribers, you know. I read that theory and I was like, wow, that's genius. Let's start with the hardest section, you know. Let's make sure everybody's getting a bad score. Then they will keep coming to us, keep taking tests, you know, and we'll keep making the money. If you want to know my personal opinion, I don't know, and I don't care. Because I love writing, you know. If it starts with writing, then the opposite is going to happen, like, yes.
Yeah, people say that listening is the easiest section, whereas writing is the hardest, right? What if happens like vice versa? Listening will be the hardest, writing will be the easiest. Because writing, people will have fresh ideas.
Then I think I will have to stop all of my writing courses.
And listening.
Yes. And retrain to listening, yes. Like Abdurazak. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I heard that in India, like, British Council doesn't exist, right? Like, IDP overtook British Council and like bought it for $30 million.
I'm sorry, come again?
IDP overtook British Council.
Me?
No, IDP.
Yes. No, what's the question, like, you know? IDP or British Council what?
IDP overtook the British Council.
Overtook?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes, in India.
In India?
Not in Uzbekistan.
Yes. In Uzbekistan
no,
as well?
not in Uzbekistan. So right now, like, British Council doesn't work in India. Only IDP works there. So they have like expanded.
I think it's only fair. It's only fair if IDP takes over British Council. There was a time when we didn't have IDP. British Council had its time, you know. I think we should share our toys with them. Yes. So it's only fair if IDP takes over British Council. Again, brother, look, you're asking questions. Your questions are in one valley. My expertise is in this valley, okay? And I can't answer your questions, which are about IDP, India, you know. I don't even know, like, what's going on there. But if you ask questions about myself.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So,
how you guys are doing?
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm from fine. Yeah. So the question. Yeah, I'm answering like, yeah, it's just a joke. I'm from fine, you know. So I'm gonna talk about, and my question is about the speaking part 2 and part 3. Yeah, it's just connected. So the former is about the part 2, planning part. And, you know, while I'm watching most of the documentary films, you know, documentary films, yeah, we can talk it. And for part 3, I'm always leaking ideas, and so the structure is becoming kind of hard when someone gives question about, for example, global warming or something. You know, I have an idea, but so the order is giving the question or giving the answer orderly is becoming a problem. Teacher, so the former is planning, so the second is giving answer orderly. So what can I do to answer the question in part 3 in order? For example, giving topic sentence and giving details for that is becoming the main problem. So I'm asking the question about that.
So let's answer part 3 first.
Okay.
The structure is very simple. Okay, remember the structure. Short answer to the question. Okay, and so for example, let's see. Do you think printed books will be replaced by e-books? This is the question for part 3. You start your answer with, no, I don't think so. Okay, no, I don't think so. Or yes, of course. Now, of course doesn't mean, I'm sorry, scratch that. Of course is a bad word to use in IELTS speaking, okay? So you start with a short answer, no, I don't think so. Then you give a reason for your answer. You don't have to start your reason with because. If you pay attention, everybody starts with because. That becomes problematic. Say, for example, no, I don't think so. Printed books have something that, in my opinion, anything online, anything electronic will never be able to replace. And the smell of the pages as you turn, as you turn your book, as you flip your book, sorry, right? I don't know, like, what do you guys like about reading books? Add some reason here. Let's keep it simple. No, I don't think so. Conventional books offer something that anything electronic will never be able to offer. It's something ranging from the smell of the book, the motivation you get as you flip around the pages, you see how much is left there, all right? And then you give a second reason, if you have a second reason, start with plus on top of that, okay? You give the second reason. Electronic devices are not very comfortable. When people read them for a long time, their eyesight strains, and it's just not as comfortable as reading ordinary books. And then you may give an exception, but maybe if we can stop the deforestation problem, people will be so, obsessed with saving trees that people will have to stop buying conventional books, right? And at the end of it, summarize your answer. And you can give a personal example at the end. Never give personal examples in the beginning of part 3 questions. At the end, you say, I personally will never switch to electronic books because, like I said, I am really passionate about touching my book and, sensing the pages, whatnot. This is the structure. Did you get the structure? Yozmamaydi, daftaringiz yo'q ekan. Okay, yes. Thank you.
So the part 2?
Part 2 nima edi savolingiz?
It's just about planning. 1 minute. Yeah, it really matters. But when I get the paper, in my exam, last year it was a kind of problem of planning, structures. So Ross was in front of me, and I was I started feeling embarrassed or something, stressed, and couldn't write anything on paper, and then started immediately. So the answer was not as good as I thought.
Yeah, okay, well, your answer was bad because you didn't plan your answer, correct?
Yeah, so the planning was the main point, main problem at the time.
I think next time you should plan your answer.
Yeah. So that's why I'm asking what is your approach of planning your 1 minute?
Yeah, okay, my personal approach is, I think, not applicable to most IELTS takers. What I do is I write down a few fancy phrases I want to use in my part 2, and I make sure, to use them. But look, first of all, you don't have to follow the cue card. Let's get that straight away. You don't have to follow the cue card. It's just there to guide you, okay? You can just dismiss that. First things first. Next is, when you're planning, write down the bullet points. Don't write whole sentences. Writing whole sentence is a problem. Write down the bullet points, what you want to talk about. And also the problem I notice is in part 2, a lot of people, they run out of ideas in the middle of their answer.
Yeah.
When it's just 1 minute, they don't know what to talk about. So you want to make sure to avoid this problem. How? Okay, this is also a long answer. Sorry for taking too long to answer it. Look, start with something background. I think there is a method called past, future. A past, present, future. Shunaqa strukturani eshitganmisiz? Bo'ladimi shunaqa? O'tgan zamon haqida boshlab kelasizda, keyin hozirgi zamon, keyin kelajak haqida ham predictions berib berasiz. My approach is very simple. You just add your reflections to your answer. Reflections are great. I love reflections, okay? Personal reflections, your mood swings, Anything that comes to your mind, if it's relevant to the topic. As long as you don't do the end train degan narsa bor. End deb qo'shib ketasiz javoblaringiz. Shu bo'lmaydi. Shuni yo'qotish kerak. End deb qo'shib ketmash kerak. Masalan, the book you like reading. I'm not a bookworm, to be honest with you, but I think I did read around a dozen books this year. My favorite one of them was, you're starting with some background, not getting into the question straight away. My favorite one was, what was my favorite one? Let's just remember what the favorite. My favorite one was Reclaim Your Heart by Yasmin Mujahid. This was a book on spirituality and self-consciousness. I thoroughly enjoyed this book deb turib, ichidagi kontentlarni aytib o'tasizda, oxirida nima qilasiz? Reflectioningizni qo'shasiz. Hamma reflectionsini qo'shish kerak. Everybody should add their reflection, personal reflections. Reflection is nima degani? Your thoughts about the book, right? The ideas given in this book really did fly with me, and I felt like I could relate to every single passage in the book, you know. I would definitely recommend this book to all of my friends because, you know, after reading Reclaim Your Heart, I felt like a new person, and I was able to manage my stress completely. And I think in the future I'm going to come back to this again. See, future haqida gapirib. I think in the future I'm going to come back to this book again and again, just to make sure I'm never ever depressed again. Does it answer your question? Yeah. Thank you, guys. I'm not very like speaking is not my thing, honestly. My speaking is just 8, you know, and
you are more than a score.
Yes. Thank you, brother. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for your answer. So yeah, I'm really satisfied with your answer, and yeah, I will follow what is said. And so my comments about Ozodbek's IELTS, you know, Ozodbek personally, your channel is totally different from others. While others are always posting the things related to IELTS, you are posting the things about Iman and other things related to our religion. Yeah, I really love it. You know, by knowing you, I've known a lot of people, a lot of religious people who teach about religion. So one of my favorite people is Omar Sulaiman. Thank you for posting the series of that person about our Prophet Muhammad and others. So thank you for that, for posting and being someone different, you know, in teaching IELTS. You know, it's not always about IELTS. It's also about our religion. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
My personal comment.
Yaxshi, boshqa kanallarda ko'rib qolmabdi-ya. Bit of a back and forth with Diorbek, and he said that it's very hard to teach something new and something beneficial in just 2 hours. All right, and I think he's totally right. It's very difficult to improve your score from 6.5 to 7 in just 2 hours. Impossible, right? But at least I hope I was able to give something new, and if push comes to shove, maybe we will continue with the writing. I'm personally, yes, if we can find unlimited access to Zoom, right? Because I hate Telegram video chats. They're awful, they're terrible. We could talk about writing in more details, which is my favorite section, all right? And yes, I hope the presentation was useful. Thank you once again, everybody.
Okay, thank you all for coming, and I hope that you learned a lot of useful tips, and from now you will not make those mistakes. And now, let the founder, Rustam Umarovich, to give you a closing speech. Thank you, guys.
Assalamu alaikum hammaga. Ozodbek, my appreciation goes to you first of all for spending time, valuable time, instead of like sitting home, surfing on the net and doing your channels a bit. So we've been talking a lot about, you know, the IELTS tips, criteria, and when I was listening to the teacher, about the teacher, defining a good teacher, but I would thought and put myself in the shoes of a student, because we were also students, just about to who wanted to start learning English language. What makes a good student? Давайте o'zbekcha gapiray. Bu o'zim ham ingliz tilida shu boshlaganimda o'ylaganman, mana shunaqa qanaqa ustoz topsa bo'lar ekan. Menga maslahat berishgan, mana hozir hamma maslahatlarni ham olmanglar deyilgan. Ya'ni yaxshi ustoz topish yaxshi, lekin yaxshi ustozni bilish uchun siz yaxshi o'quvchi bo'lishingiz kerak. Lekin yaxshi o'quvchi bo'lish qanaqa sifatlari bor? Yaxshi o'quvchi bo'lishning qanaqa sifatlari bor? Ya'ni bu anaqa emas, savol bu, question mark. Qanday jihatlari bor deb o'ylaysizlar? Yaxshi o'quvchi bo'lish. Bemalol free talk qilaylik.
Ozodbek aka boshida studentlarni o'zi typelarni ko'rsatganlarda boshida bright student dedilar-ku. Shunaqa studentlarni даже ochki taqib olish kerak dedilar mana. Ochki taqib, ya'ni shunaqa darslarga vaqtida qatnashib, hamma darsga vaqtida qatnashib, berilgan vazifalarni qilib, plus o'zidan ko'proq savol berib, ya'ni o'qituvchini tindirmasdan savollar bilan bezdirib tashlab, ashuna bo'lsa, menimcha ko'proq benefit ola oladi o'sha o'qituvchidan. Agar o'quvchi o'shani agar o'zi zo'r o'quvchi bo'la olsa, o'zi zo'r ilm olishga ko'proq passionate bo'lsa va o'zi o'shanda sraz bilinadi, shu agar o'qituvchi unga o'zi olmoqchi bo'lgan narsani bera olmasa, ya'ni yaxshi o'qituvchi emasligi bilinadi. Shu bitta narsani qaytaraversa o'qituvchi ham, ya'ni siz o'sha narsani qilyapsiz, lekin sizda qanaqadir improvement bo'lmayapti-da. Lekin siz o'qituvchidan so'rayapsiz, shu narsani menga qilib bering, ya'ni qanaqadir advice bering, men qilaman deyapsiz. O'qituvchi o'sha narsani bera olmaydi, demak o'sha o'qituvchi yomon bo'ladi. Boshqa o'qituvchi topishingiz kerak. Birinchi navbatda o'qituvchidan 20% narsa depend qiladi. O'zingizdan 80%. Agar o'zingiz ming masalan 9 olgan o'qituvchi bo'lsa, masalan Bekzod Marahmerov 8,5 necha 20 necha marta oldilar, sana ham qila olmadim. Ozodbek aka masalan writinglari zo'r. Kim o'tkazar Dilshod aka keldilar, writing zo'r. Agar o'zingiz harakat qilmasangiz, bergan vazifalarni, assignmentlarni vaqtida qilmasangiz, siz hech qanaqa result berish olmaydilar. Birinchi navbatda hamma gap o'quvchida.
Thank you. Yana bitta qilib aytadigan bo'lsa, bu o'zingizga bog'liq deyaptilar, o'quvchi bo'lib, ya'ni ustozni undaydigan demanding tushundim. Savol berib demanding, challenge qiladigan va harakat qilib o'sha ustozni berganini ko'proq o'rganadigan deb. Xo'p, men aytgan bo'lardim, men endi mana o'qituvchi bo'lib ishlaganman. Hozir ham haligacha dars beramiz. O'quv markazida emas, lekin hali ham dars beramiz. Faqat mana spikerlarni chaqirib dars beramiz, ya'ni ko'proq odamga. Men o'yladim, agar meni 5 ta gruppam bo'lsa, 10 tadan 50 ta odam o'qitar ekanman. Lekin boshqa chora sferada o'ylagan bo'lsa, men ko'proq mana shunga mana 2000 ga 3000 ga yaqin bolalarga mana ozmi ko'pmi ibrat kampda, bilasizlar, ibrat haqi kampi eshitgansizlar, lagerlarimiz bor. O'sha yerda mana ingliz tili biladigan bolalarga, o'rtacha biladigan bolalarga mana baholi qudrat biz yordam berib kelyapmiz. Давайте men kichkinagina story aytaman. Hech kim shoshmayaptimi? 5 minut vaqtinglarni olaman. Birinchi bo'lib shu o'qitayotgan paytimda bitta qizimiz bo'lardi, o'zimga kelgan, o'qiyman deb. Juda introvert edilar, gapirmas edilar hech narsani. Darslar o'tgan. Meni hech qanaqa challenge ham qilmas edilar, demand ham qilmas edilar. Uyga vazifani bir xil paytda ularning levellaridan ko'ra kichkinaroq uyga vazifalar ham berardim. Ba'zi bir paytlarda kattaroq uyga vazifalar ham berardim. Ya'ni bir xil talabalar, men o'zim ko'p talabalarni o'qitganman, mana Ozodbek qatori. Bir xillari men qilgan uyga vazifani beryapsiz deydi yoki men levelimdan kichkinaroq uyga vazifalarni beryapsiz deydi. Kattarog'ini bersa menga qiyin ekan nisbatan, bu qiyinlik qilyapti deydi. Ular indamadilar nimagadir. Oradan yillar o'tdi. Endi qisqa tarixni aytib beraman, vaqtinglarni olmaslik uchun. Xullas, men boshida ishon qila olmay turdim. Menimcha ketsalar kerak bular nimagadir. Chunki mana ya'ni darslarimga kirgan asosan talabalar aktivniy bo'lib o'tirardi, ya'ni gapirardi. Mana Ozodbek hozir gapirdi. Sizlar hammanglar aktivniy bo'lganlar kabi men xohlardim hammani gapirtirishni. То есть chunki bu yerda ustoz teacher centered emas, student centered bo'lib qilish kerak edi. Va oradan yillar o'tdi va men essaylarni ko'rdim. Essaylari o'sha IELTS o'qiyotgan paytlarida, endi men ularni pre-intermediate olgan bo'lsam, she was likely to score at least 7 in writing in the IELTS. Kamida shunaqa chiqdi. Men juda xursand bo'ldim. Ya'ni har doim ham javob bermaslik, jimlik, odamning xarakteri, don't judge the book by its cover deydi-yu. Ya'ni sizni noto'g'ri o'quvchiligingiz yoki dangasa o'quvchiligingizdan dalolat bermas ekan. Men ularda birinchi ko'rgan narsam qanaqa sharoitda bo'lmasliklaridan, chunki atrofdagilari ular bilan sal kamroq gaplashishardi. Ya'ni o'quvchilar ham, boshqa o'quvchilar ham. Ular o'zlari alohida o'tirardilar. Va shunaqa bo'ldiki, meni shogirdimga aylandilar va o'quv markazida savob uchun 3 oy, 4 oy bir yuzlab o'quvchilarga dars berdilar tekinga. Va mana Singapurskida yanglishmasam 3-kurslar ular. Ismlarini ham aytaman, ismlari Munisa degan qizimiz men shuni bildimki, odamda matonat bo'lsa, sabr bo'lar ekan. Ya'ni misol uchun mana hozir sizlar 2 soat yakshanba kuni qoninglar ochgandir balki, kimdirlar obed qilmagandir. Sizlar hozir bu yerda o'tirib ilm olayotgan paytinglarda bilinglar, ba'zi bir odamlar bu narsaga zor. Chunki men o'zim I wish I could have a seminar like this, and I wish I could have a teacher who got like band 8.5 and then teach me for free. Bu tushunarli bo'ldi deb o'ylayman. Keyin ozgina yangiligimiz, bu shtrix kodlarni hamma o'zi olsa, YouTube'da kanalimiz bor. Nimaga? Chunki hozir siz savol beryapsizlar, balkim hududdiylik ham yordam berar. Bepul darslar qo'yamiz yaqinda. Bepul eng zo'r kачественный darslar qo'yishga harakat qilamiz va bular Ozodbek mana Behruz o'zimizda o'tiribdi, har doim qoldirmaydi anaqa seminarlarimizni, iltimosimizga yordam berib kelishadi. O'sha eng yaxshi spikerlarni jalb qilib harakat qilamiz. Savobga sherik bo'lsan ham YouTube'ga tushib ber, shu bolalar 1 yildan keyin shu videolaring tarixda qolsin-da, eng o'rganayotgan, ingliz tilini boshlayotgan insonlarimizga bo'lsin. Ya'ni u beginnerdan tortib to advanced gacha bo'ladi. SAT'largacha bo'ladi xudo xolasa. Mana ma'rifat jamoalar bilan gaplashyapmiz, Azroplar bilan gaplashyapmiz, SAT bo'yicha tekin darslar. Zo'rku, intervyu formati bor, master-klass formatlari bor. Ya'ni bu yerda kela olmaganlar qayerda ko'rsa bo'ladi degan savol bo'lishi mumkin. Shu yerda hamma narsa bor. Keyingi seminar IT'ga qiziqarganlar ham qo'lini ko'tarsin. Hamma bashta qiziqadi deb o'ylayman. Shavkat aka degan bitta yaqinimiz bor. Главный Microsoftda vitse-prezident bo'lib ishlaganlar. Yiliga $660,000 topib. Hozir O'zbekistonlari startapchilarni qidiryaptilar. Ya'ni qanaqa qilib film makerlikdan vitse-prezidentligiga ko'targanlarini shu stejda Xudo xolisa baholi qudrat tushuntirib berishga harakat qiladilar ingliz tilida. Qizig'i intervyuimiz ham bo'ladi. Bu yerda intervyu olib bo'ldi odam bilan, lekin baribir o'zidan eshitib, savollarni eshitish qiziqda. Ko'rsanglar juda oddiy inson, lekin $500,000 pul topgan odam yiliga. U oyiga chaqsanglar balon bo'ladi, lekin maqsadingiz nima desa, maqsadim shu yoshlar bilan gaplashyapman. Hozir Rustamбек yoshlarni berayotgan ideyasi yaxshi, lekin 90% ideyasi fail bo'ladi. Ularga men 4 yil ko'rsatishim kerak deyapti. Yana bitta inson bilan gaplashdim, Abdusattor IT bilan taniysizlar? Abdusattor aka. Kecha o'tgan kuni yig'ilishimiz bo'ldi, Alisher Sadullayev o'tiribdilar. Mana bitcoinlar bor, kriptovalyutalar bor. Ko'pchilik tushunmayapti buni, ayniqsa o'zbeklar. Chunki nega? Qiziqqon pulini bor yo'g'ini tikib yuboradi-da, ungada biznes nuqtai nazaridan keyin o'tiramiz. Yo'lni qilib hozir o'rgatmasa, bularga kelgan kech bo'ladi deb. O'shanga we are here to guide you, to help you. And I hope you're going to help me and our community to, spread that knowledge, to, enhance that chain together. Do you promise? Thank you. Ozodbekga sizlarning ruxsatinglar bilan kichkinagina sovg'amiz bor. Shaxsan Alisher Sadullayev qo'llaridagi mana qo'llari bor, sertifikat bitta qarsanglar bilan rahmat.